Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Elevate Podcast. I'm Robert Kaelin here with my good friend, Mike Newman.
Good to see you again, everybody. Nice to have Jason be able to join us again.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
It is awesome to have you back, Jason. We had a great time talking with you in our last episode. And you guys, if you haven't heard the last episode for whatever reason, you need to subscribe, number one. And number two, you need to go back and you need to listen to it because Jason laid down some great stuff on communication. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that and what he does at Speak with People today. Jason, last episode, you kind of left us with this little teaser of 4X. What is 4X? How do we think about this? Lay it down for us, my friend.
Absolutely. Well, we, we're obsessed with helping our clients win in their communication because in the end of the day, the more you improve your communication skills, the stronger your leadership is going to be, the better your relationships are going to be, the healthier you're going to be. And so we can't just take our communication skills for granted. It's just like everything else. We've got to spend some time. So if you're an athlete, you got to spend some time stretching and walking and doing your workouts. It's the same thing with our communication skills. And so we don't want to help you just be good at one area of communicating. So for us, we want you to develop into a 4X communicator. So kind of 4 quadrants of your communication. We're not all going to be like Simon Sinek. We're not all going to be like John Maxwell. We're not going to be like Nate Bargatze, the great comedian. But we all are going to be the best version of ourselves if we put in the effort to grow and to push ourselves. So for this 4X, we want, for us, we want to help you develop each of those areas. And so the first area is those one-on-one interpersonal skills. And so how do you communicate in a way that you communicate one-on-one with people in a clear and a concise way? You communicate with people where you lift them up. Your words are encouraging. On the other end, your words are challenging because you leave them helping them get to a better place than they are now. And then how do you communicate in a way that people trust you and want to come back and have more and more conversations? Well, for us, we call that to speak with people. To speak with people. It is, being healthy on the inside as a communicator, assessing and prioritize each of your health areas so then you can then be healthy on the outside of those conversations. So that first quadrant is to speak with people. The second one, so many of us, especially business leaders, business owners, we're leading people, we're influencing them, we're organizing our teams, we're hiring team members. Well, we've got to know how to communicate to a team. And so whether you lead a team, whether you're just on a team, you need to know how to communicate with your coworkers, with your boss, or with the people below you. We call that lead with people. So that'd be the second quadrant. And that was really birthed out of, I read Primal Leadership probably 15 years ago by the great Daniel Goleman. And my mind was just, I don't know what happened because I'd only been in settings where I felt like leadership was this forced, we lead out of fear, you will follow me, I pay you to do a job, so get it done. And Daniel Goleman said, wait a minute, the research actually shows people are more productive, they enjoy their jobs more, their morale goes up, they make more money, they care more about their job, they don't want to leave if you tap into their positive emotions. So stop leading, communicating out of fear and lead out of joy, lead out of trust, empower them. So that's that second quadrant. The third quadrant is present with people. Harvard Business Review has so many different articles and studies that say, hey, if you want to get ahead in life, period, you want to make more money, you want more responsibility at work, you got to have some level of public speaking skills. And you got to stop saying, oh, I can never do that. I can never do that. Well, you're never going to do that if you keep telling yourself you're never going to do that. Yeah. And so again, you're not going to be, Simon Sinek or whoever your favorite communicator is, but you can learn some skills to present with people in a way that people will take notice during your sales presentations. They may lean in while you're talking. I mean, there are some skills that you can learn. And honestly, a lot of them come through how you prepare and how you organize your presentation or talk. Because once all that's in place, and then this other second trick is you got to take the focus off yourself. The biggest mistake I made for years as a professional speaker was caring about me. How am I going to do? Are they going to like me? Is the content going to work? Are they going to laugh? All the wrong questions. You got to be so obsessed with your audience and helping them that really between the preparation and focusing on your audience, it takes away from so many of the nerves you may be having. That's present with people. We want to teach you how to speak like a leader, speak with confidence in a captivating way. And then the last quadrant, 1, 2, 3, 4X, is your online communication. We post thoughts, we post videos, we are talking into camera so much now. Are you doing that in a healthy way that's actually getting through to people? Well, you can do that in a healthy way. And so at the end of it, I think the modern leader needs to be able to communicate in those 4 areas and needs to do it well, especially to succeed. And you can with just a little bit of work, a little bit of investment on your part.
That's great. I think, you touched on this. You didn't explicitly say it. But for all of our listeners out there, there's an awesome kind of rule of thumb, which is you can get better.
Yes.
It's not just a talent that you've been born with, that these people can just speak and they do a great job. Ask me how I know. I can share that with you. If you guys know any bit of my story, I was in high school. We had to do a senior project. I'm going to just spill this real quick and just put it all out there because I'm usually you guys will bring it out anyway. I was in high school. We had to do a senior project, and it's a 3-year long project where you're talking about your career and what you're going to do, and you're assembling this binder. And on your senior year, you have to present this whole idea of what your career path is and how you're going to get there and what you've done up until that point. And, my junior year, it started to click with me that I have no clue what I want to do in my life. And there's absolutely no way that I'm going to present on this in front of my peers. And so I did what any kid does, right? I transferred high schools. And so I got out of doing that presentation. But I say that because, Jason and I met from being on a stage in Florida. And, I have come from being so unbelievably terrified in front of people to not want to speak and to transfer high schools to now traveling around the world and speaking at various stages. And so I look at this and I just say, I love what you're doing, Jason, number one. Number two, it is such a needed skill development that all leaders need to just step in. If you guys haven't gone to speakwithpeople.com to get in touch with Jason and how he can help you, I highly encourage that you do that now. Because like he said, it is the number one skill for career advancement. And you can get better. You may not feel like it right now, but trust me, you can.
Absolutely.
So you had said something about in your quadrant number 3 with presenting with people about organizing your presentations. I'm curious, do you have like specific structure, specific thoughts around how you organize those thoughts, or is it up to the presenter?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is where I kind of nerd and geek out a little bit. Over the years, I mean, there's tons of different structures out there that will, teach you. We kind of learn the basics, right, in high school speech class. What's your premise? What problem are you solving? All of those kind of things. But I created something, kind of over the course of, 28 years of speaking in public that I just call the clarity box. And so it's literally just a simple template that helps you take all of your ideas. So I was coaching a leader. Her name is Joy. She worked for a company for 15 years. She's the backbone of the company, all the behind the scenes stuff. Her boss calls her in the office one day and says, Joy, you're going to do the keynote at our regional sales conference. And Joy just lost it. She's like, no, I'm not the upfront person. I'll do everything behind the scenes. I'll do all their slides, but I'm not doing it. And the boss said, no, you're actually going to do this. It's your turn. You're ready. And for a month, Joy just lost her mind. She didn't know what to talk about. She didn't know how to prepare it. She was so nervous. She didn't eat. I mean, finally, a month before the thing, she went into her boss and said, I don't even know where to start. You've disrupted my whole life for a month. And unbeknownst to her, I had actually coached him as well and provided this really simple template. And so he then says, wait a minute, I didn't send you the clarity box. And she's like, clarity what? No. And so he sends her this at the end of the day. It's like 10:30 at night. Kids are in bed, and she pulls out her laptop. She opens it up and she goes, wait a minute. All right. And she just starts plugging in stuff, because what it does is it takes all of your ideas, right? What are you going to speak about? You have all these different kind of things that you want to speak about. You can't talk about them all. The reality is that people are going to forget 70% of what you say by the next morning. That doesn't mean that all of what you say is not important, but it does mean that it's got to be clear, it's got to be focused, and it's got to be presented in a way that, okay, wow, that was memorable. So this clarity box, it starts with your key word. So what's the one word to describe what your presentation or your keynote talk or your talk or whatever it is about? Okay, well, I'm gonna talk about workplace relationships. That's a bad one. Workplace relationships, not like dating other coworkers. Not that.
Somebody get HR in here.
Yeah, I mean, already. But workplace culture. So we'll talk about the culture of your workplace. And then you go from your keyword to the key area of the keyword. Okay, so your culture, there's a lot you could talk about, right? You got to keep narrowing down to one. And so what this clarity box does is it kind of keeps taking all these ideas and funneling them down. I kind of like to say it's like a gold prospector. If you remember back in the day, and you got the guy, chipping on the mountain, and he's got all the dirt and the rocks, and he's got the pan, and now he's in the water, and he's trying to, get out the dirt and the rocks, and then he gets rid of everything else so he can find that one gold nugget. And that's what you have to do if you're going to speak like a leader. You got to get away all that other stuff and narrow it down to that signature area, that key area that you're going to focus on and concentrate on. And then in this process, it kind of teaches you how to obsess a little bit about becoming as best of an expert as you can on that area. Listening, watching, preparing, for sure, someone else has already talked about it. I developed this whole course called Speak Like a Leader, where we take people through this step-by-step process. And then I find out 6 years ago, an amazing leader did a TED Talk called Speak Like a Leader. I guess I should have Googled that first. But, someone's probably already been there. So you take the keyword to the key area, and then you think through your audience for a second. Okay, who's going to be in the room? What different generations are they're going to be? What different, sectors? And then you start thinking through what is the common problem that they're all facing? Because I used to approach my talks and messages from, what does Jason want to talk about? What am I passionate about? That's part of it. But if I can take what I'm passionate about and it helps answer a problem that they're already facing, win-win. Because then I can do that. And so then I write out the problem. Like I think through my target audience and the problem that they're facing, our work environment, people just don't want to continue working here after a year because of the gossip and the all that kind of stuff. Okay. That's where I'm centering in. And then I look at the no. What do people need to know about this situation? Well, things can change if you confront it and have a good value system, whatever that may be. And then it keeps honing down. Then I get to the big idea, which, if you took speech class, you remember your thesis statement or your key takeaway or, whatever you call it. But for me, the big idea is the hope of the problem, whatever that hope is. And that's going to be your one repeatable, memorable, actionable statement that you're actually going to loop through the entire talk. Sorry, I nerd out a little bit when I talk about this, but
love it.
So then keep honing it and you take your key area, your keyword, you take the problem and the no, and you're taking all the research and all the prep work that you've done. And now you get into that what's the one thing I want them, if they're going to forget 70%, what's the one thing I want them to remember? What did that guy talk about? What did he talk about? Oh, it's on every single employee to decide they can change the culture. Whatever you come up with for that area, but that's your big idea. Then I work on what I call the bridge. And this is just your points. I typically am a 3-point person. It goes back to, I think your brain is wired in threes. I've done lots of research on that. Donald Miller talks about that a lot. That's why plays were written in 3X since the dawn of time. People who do like 17 points, I hate to break it to you, you've lost them by 0.5. Like they may be out by 0.4. But 3, and those, I call them the bridge because they want to bridge. I want those points to take me from the problem to the solution. And so if that big idea is giving them hope and bringing them, I want those points to take me down to that solution. And so, I start off with that. Okay. Hey, this is where it is. This is where we're going though. And we find out. And then I finish with the do or the call to action. What I want them to do with this right now, and so, whatever that situation is. And then typically at the end, I title it because I think titles are important in 2024 because so much of our talks go online. So there's a whole actually 6-step process to this. So the Clarity Box takes you through all the prep work and all the way to the end to how to evaluate afterwards instead of just going, oh, how to do. We're actually, sorry, shameless plug. We're actually releasing this as a product on the Speak with People website in May, and we're doing a whole series. We're going to walk through each of those steps to help, because really at the end of the day, we want to help our clients crush their presentations, like be able to get up front and go, okay, I'm ready. So that's good. Yeah. Sorry. I drilled in a little bit too much there, but I get excited.
No, you didn't at all.
I think excites me.
I think it was great. I think that's exactly what we need, because what it caused me to think is 2 things. Everybody has a message. Every single person has a message. So if you're listening to this right now and you're going, well, I don't know what I would talk about, ask Jason about the Clarity Box, okay? And get your message distilled down. The second thing that I would say is we tend to undervalue the preparation for speaking. And, I think we talked about John Maxwell's book. He talks about winging it, right? And there's a lot of people out there going, well, I'll just show up and I'll wing it. I'll just, I know this well enough where I'm going to be able to just talk to it. But I think the preparation is so unbelievably important for us. I'll throw myself under the bus here. I just had a networking group meeting that I lead on Monday mornings, and I always write my notes down in my planner. I forgot my planner. In fact, I couldn't even find it. I didn't know where it was. And I showed up there and I was like, you guys, I have to apologize. I feel terrible about this, but I left my planner, which had all my notes for today's talk. And I have no clue what I put in there. Like I'm drawing a complete blank right now. Oof, and so we ended up talking about communication and the need for preparation. And it was a great conversation, which led to then talking about, hey, I'm going to be gone for the month of May for this group. And so why don't you guys sign up to take on lead one of these groups? And it ended up really good. But again, it comes back to that preparation piece of a lot of people just show up and wing it. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I feel really uncomfortable with just showing up and winging it when it comes to a talk or a presentation. So what advice would you give about winging it versus preparation?
Yeah, there's a great profession for people who love to wing it, and it's called improv comedians. Like, I mean, that's amazing. And 100% of the time, you may not be able to prepare. But if you're going to a meeting, take 2 minutes and think through, even if it's a one-on-one conversation, think through it. If you have a talk where you're standing up, see, this is why I get so excited, because I just like you, I go to lots of networking groups, and a lot of them, you've got to introduce yourself, right? Like, hey, you've got 30 seconds or 1 minute to introduce yourself. And people go, yeah, my name is Jason, and I've been working for Acme, toilet paper company for 17 years, and it's okay. They have no plan. And then, they're, as a leader, nobody remembers their story. They might remember, oh, was that guy who, no, even things like that, be prepared for, your how you introduce yourself, what are the first words? So a couple thoughts for me is write out for sure the first couple lines that you're going to say, because if you get those down, it just helps out so incredibly much. I mean, it just, you're like, okay, I've got a little bit of a piece of a mind that I can be able to do that. Even if it's just a simple notes document and I type that out and I'm, ready to go. Yeah. And, for me, just an encouragement, look for ways that you can spend some time preparing. There are so many different opportunities that you can, we can access so much knowledge and information like ever before. Mm-hmm. But in order to get up and present it in a way that will be memorable, that people will respond to, especially if you're in sales, you're not too cheesy, but you come across obsessed with their success. You've got to learn, as many of those things as possible and just push yourself. Yeah. Make sure you're doing it.
Yeah, when you're walking through those points, Jason, one of them that jumped out to me that I think is really important, whether you're presenting to a large group or in a conference room or individually, is about who's in the room.
Yes.
And so talk with us a little bit about how, if you're going into an environment where you don't know the people, how can you get to know the people quickly in the room?
Yeah, that's so tough. That's so much of what I've done as a speaker over the years, not knowing the room, but then how do you show up and communicate like you know everybody and they know you? And, that's kind of where you want to get to. For me, a couple things, especially if I'm speaking in person, I show up as early as I can. I try to have as many pre-calls as the event organizer or the person who asked me to speak will have with me so I can ask them questions. I ask a lot lately about, what's the different percentage of generations in the room? Because it's unheard of. I mean, we have this, the silent generation, boomers, Xers, millennials, Z, and now alphas coming up. Everybody communicates differently. And so I want to know, about half of them are millennials, half of them are boomers. Okay. Two different, but at least gives me that. And then especially if you're in my 20s, I was a raging extrovert. I mean, I could walk in any room. Hey, everybody. In my almost 50s, I got a year and a half. Now I feel like I'm more of a raging introvert to where I need so much time alone to be able to have those moments where I'm in rooms. But I've got to push past that. So I get to the room, I meet people beforehand. I did a training for an insurance company. I can't even believe it, but I showed up and I'm talking to people and I just sit down with this guy and I didn't know him at all, but I was like, hey, tell me your story. And I found out he adopted from China. We adopted from China. We started talking through all this China stuff. And I'm a person of faith. He was not. So we were just talking about, how China was different when it came to religion and all that kind of stuff. And it was a great conversation. For the time that I was with them, I could go to him and get good eye contact when I was speaking. If I needed a laugh in the room, because I already made that connection, I knew he would laugh because he's like, oh man, I already connect. I don't even know Jason, but he sat down with me.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, I get a call from the director of that company and said, hey, I know that his name was Bob. I know that you really connected with Bob when you were with us. He passed away suddenly last night.
Oh, wow.
And he was 54, teenage kids. I mean,
oh man.
But it was one of those things where I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that. And the director said to me, Bob didn't stop talking for the next couple of weeks about how the speaker talked to him. And, I'm like, you ask my kids, I'm a nobody, but it was like, wait a minute, what a cool moment, and why it was so helpful to show up early so I could kind of get inside and have some of those conversations, meet those people. I also do some pre-work if I can do some research on the company or do the research on the networking group or, whatever it is. But, some of those things that, really help out, especially if you're going to a room where you're not being able to connect. And the other big thing is you just got to learn how to be you as a leader. So often we try to be someone we're not. Yeah. I want to show up and speak like John Maxwell. Hi, my name is Jason Raitz and I'm your friend. Well, like if you know Maxwell, he says that all the time. Yeah. I'm not gonna say that because that's Maxwell's thing. I want to show up as Jason, legitimately and authentically as I can. And that alone really helps you communicate because people are like, oh, this guy is real,
Yeah.
So.
That's good. I love the whole concept of connecting with your audience because that matters so unbelievably much, if that's even a sentence. Here we are in a communication podcast. So, Jason, there was something that you said about connecting. I know we're a little bit over time, but that's okay because this is good stuff. You had said something, and now I'm totally lost my thought. Oh, you said I'm nobody. And I want to just challenge you to that thought because you are an up and comer. I see you on stages all over. If people don't know your name right now, they will. Wow. And I think that's just because of the impact and the connections that you're making with people, because you are speaking with them and you are connecting the dots for people and helping lead them to a better place. So I love you, my friend. I'm so honored to have you on this podcast. It's been a great conversation. You guys go to speakwithpeople.com right now. Get in touch with Jason. He can help you become a better communicator. And that's what we all need in this world. So thanks, Jason.
Well, thank you guys. Really appreciate this conversation.
Great conversation, Jason. Thank you very much.
All right, you guys, that's it for the Elevate podcast today. Until next week, take care. God bless.
We'll see you guys.
Thank you for joining us. Our hope is this episode has been helpful for you today. If it's impacted you in some way, we encourage you to share it with someone. To receive a direct notification of our next episode, click the follow button on your favorite app or platform. You can also watch each episode on YouTube. The links are in the description. If you want to connect with us on a deeper level, go to countercultureleadership.com/resources. We'll see you next week on the Elevate Podcast.